Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for First Thursday. I know we still have more people coming in, but we're glad to see you today. And again, you're attending today's First Thursday on Gardening Anywhere. So we're really excited about this presentation today. We'll get more into that in a minute. But before we get started, I just want to, again, thank you for joining us and hope that each of you are staying healthy and safe right now. And no, we can't wait to see you in person when that time comes. So anyway, we hope everyone is doing well. Right now, Megan is going to launch a poll really quickly. And if you don't mind, take a moment to answer those questions while we begin. That really helps us as we are navigating how to continue to improve this virtual experience, but in general, First Thursday community. So we're glad you're all with us today. Our team is working hard, of course, to make sure we continue to connect with you online through social media, First Thursdays, our B2Bs, our scorecard work days, Oklahoma Green Living page, and now our Sustainable Tulsa Action Facebook page. So we want to, please, connect with us or ask how you can better connect with us. We want to make that happen for you. And we've got an exciting 2021 schedule planned, and it includes some outdoor socially distanced events as we can make that happen. So we're looking forward to that. We also want to thank our program sponsors today. We want to thank Williams as lead sponsor, Public Service Company of Oklahoma, and also Oklahoma American Waste Control, Covanta, the Met, Metropolitan Environmental Trust, One Oak, Save Our Streams, Spirit Air Systems, TCC Center for Creativity, and PSO Wind Choice. Please give them a round of applause. And if you know any of them, send them a note and tell them thank you, because it's their support that allows us to continue this programming for you. I also want to thank my board members today. They have just been wonderful over the past year, getting us through 2020. And I just look forward to working with each of them and their volunteer time to make this a great organization. I want to shout out to those that are with us today: Johnny Bouchard, Connor Carroll, Richard Cox, Wayne Isaacs, Carolyn Janey, Richard Katarski, Nadia Kirilova, Aaron Larder, Ann Money, Carrie Rowland, Pam Taylor, and Mike T. Give them a round of applause for their volunteer time to help Sustainable Tulsa do our best to make an impact here in the Tulsa area and really across the state. So thank you so much to each of you. Also want to thank my team. We are a small but mighty team: Jill Maud, Megan Hurley, and Teresa Kerrigan. Give them a round of applause too. They have worked so hard in this remote environment, and you've all probably experienced that yourself, but I'm really proud of the work that they have continued to do. So thank you to my team. Sustainable Tulsa, our aim is to, of course, make that positive impact in our community, looking at that triple bottom line of people, profit, and planet, and how we can continue, as individuals as well as community members, affect in a positive way. And we appreciate any level of support. Making a $25 donation today will allow you to put your name on our Oklahoma Green Living page to tell the world that you want more sustainable living. So we'd love to continue to grow that list to show Tulsa and Oklahomans that we want more information out there, more of a community on sustainability, because that just helps all of us raise all boats. So our first B2B Case for Sustainability series is for 2021 will be on February 25th. Really looking forward to this. This is going to be on circularity. And I have to do a shout out to Matt Newman right now. He was the first to really talk to me about circularity and circular economy. And I know he's on the call today. So thank you, Matt, for your continual support, education, cheerleading around this topic. And so we're excited to have this panel. It'll actually be a international panel, our first on experts. And so we're looking forward to that discussion presentation. Look for the invite that will be sent out next week, but you can also see a link that's right here in the chat. So we'd love to see you there. Our next First Thursday will be held on March 4th, and it'll be on recycling. And our guest speakers will be from American Waste Control, City of Tulsa Household Pollutant Department, and Eco Wood Solutions. So registration's open today, and Teresa will put that link in the chat for you now. So got a great lineup this year for First Thursday. We're looking forward to sharing those with you. We also have a highlight. We started something at the beginning of this year, which were personal challenges to you on sustainability, and to kind of be that support group and as you go on this journey. So we do have a highlight. I'm going to pass the mic back over to Megan here, and she's going to introduce one of our individuals that took that challenge on this time. So Megan.
Thank you, Corey. I would like to introduce our rock star, our sustainability rock star, Christy Lawson. Christy, I know you had a couple of wonderful things that you tried for the January challenge. So can you fill us in on your successes?
I sure can. So one of the things that has been on my want list is to get the silicone reusable bags, which I did this last month. Aldi's, I'm a big fan of Aldi's because, you know, they don't use plastic bags and all that stuff. So that's where I got them at for $3.99, which was a really good deal. The sandwich size bags came with like 6 and 8 of the small snack size bags. Another thing, reusable bottle. I'm a big fan of these. I have like a million, so I bought some more of those. And I also bought a hiking backpack for when the summer comes, when I'm out gardening or at the lake. Instead of buying a case of water, I decided to buy a hiking backpack instead, which holds 3 liters of water. So I think that's going to make a real big difference on my waste over the summertime.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Christy. We really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and as Corey mentioned earlier, we have a new Facebook action group, Sustainable Tulsa's action group. Teresa's posting the link now in the chat. So please join it, share your thoughts, your pictures, your ideas, and even the challenges that you're having while you're trying to be more sustainable. The group is there to help you. So thank you guys. We're going to introduce our sponsors in a couple of booths that are tailored to this particular event. First up is Public Service Company of Oklahoma. Carrie Rowland, we love everything that you guys do over at PSO and PSO Wind Choice. This next slide has Nanette's contact information. If you need help finding energy efficient appliances or trying to make your home more energy efficient, please contact her. She's fantastic. And then of course, Tracy, who's normally with us from PSO Wind Choice. If you are not signed up for Wind Choice, you need to do it. It's a fantastic program, and we can get you more information regarding that program. Up next, we have American Waste Control. Do I have Jessica or Amanda with us? Maybe not, and that's okay. American Waste Control, you're going to hear more from them next month, but they are rock stars in our recycling program here in our region. And they also do wood recycling now too with EcoWood, who will also be presenting at next month's program. So please stay tuned. If you would like more information about the recycling program, contact Amanda Curtis, Amanda at awcok.com, and find out more information about American Waste Control at americanwastecontrol.com. Up next, we have the Met. Allie, can you tell us about your next event?
Yes, hi everyone. So we are getting ready for our big spring clean event. It's going to be March 6th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the fairgrounds. And we're going to be taking all sorts of recyclables. So, you know, stop on by. We'll do ammunition, medication, e-waste, shredding, cardboard, battery, bags. So tires are a big one. So come on by and drop off your recyclables there. And I'll also drop a link in the chat if you want to sign up to volunteer for us at that big event.
Awesome. Thank you. And of course, you guys do socially distant, masked events. So
yes.
Yes,
definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, and ammunition and medication, those are big ones. So that's a really exciting event. So thank you so much for hosting that. Okay, up next we have Save Our Streams. Again, we're going to have a Save Our Streams, the household pollutant division of City of Tulsa. We have Don Henson, who will be speaking at that next event. Dustin, are you on with us? I don't think he is. Okay, that's okay. So Don Henson will be presenting from the Household Pollutant Collection Facility next month, but you no longer need to make an appointment to drop off your waste. So that's like paint cans, that sort of thing. Don't throw them away. Please take them to the Household Pollutant Collection Facility. You can check out all of this information on cityoftulsa.org. And then last of our sponsors, TCC, thank you so much for being leaders in sustainability. We would be there right now if we weren't still in a pandemic, but hopefully soon, maybe later this year, we'll see you guys there. So we're very excited for all of your efforts, and thank you so much for being a sponsor. And next we have Lillian Timber Farms. Are you on with us? Maybe?
Yes.
Hi, welcome.
Hi. Yes, so Lillian Timber Farms, we are a nonprofit established 2019, and our goal is really getting community to come together to teach sustainable gardening and farming practices. So we have discovered that there was over 1 million acres of farmland once owned by minority groups in the state of Oklahoma, and so we are wanting to get those dormant farms back up and running to, re-educate all of the communities about farming practices, which then empower people to have jobs, that especially those that have been in our penal system that have difficulty finding mainstream jobs. And then also there's a development piece in incorporating, housing, where people just like, for us, sustainability is not just about what we do in the ground, but also what we do above it, and, bringing families together. So using food as the catalyst to do that. Yeah.
What a fantastic program you guys have. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we have a few community gardens in various neighborhoods throughout Oklahoma City. And so now we're looking forward to getting out to some farmland and creating some food forest and some gardens there. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So if you're in the Oklahoma City area, they can contact you.
Yes.
You've got an Instagram link there, but Lillian Timber Farms, I'm sure if you Google it, you'll be able to find out more information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Global Gardens. Are you joining us?
Hi there, nice to meet all of you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Hi, yeah, sure. So for those of you who don't know about Global Gardens, we've been around since 2007, in the Tulsa area, and we work in 11 schools and organizations teaching science and peace education through gardening. So we match this with students with the curriculum that they're according to their age level, and we match it with the science curriculum, and then we also use it to teach peace education, which teaches them how to find peace in their own lives and in their communities at school and communities around them. And the bonus of this is that it also instills a love of gardening, and we do a seed to plate program for each student each semester, where they actually plant, tend, harvest, and cook with the produce that they grow. So it's this very multifaceted program that we do. And one of the ways I think that this applies to gardening anywhere is that we're also launching the Global Gardens Alliance, which is a partnership program where we offer like flexible training and resources for schools or organizations that might want to incorporate garden-based learning with the work that we're already doing, so that we can bring more gardens, more learning, more science, more peace, more nutrition, cooking, everything to any organization that's willing to incorporate that in their work. So I'd love to, talk to any of you who might be interested in all of that. It's really hard to try to cram all of that into a short sentence, but I hope that provides a quick overview of the things that we're about.
Two incredible programs happening just in those with Latasha and with you, Molly. This is fantastic. So global-gardens.org is your website. They can learn more. And then of course, I'm sure you can talk with Latasha and Molly in the chat. And we'll, if you stick around at the end, we'll have some breakout sessions if anyone's interested, so that you can get more information. So we're so excited. Thank you guys so much for participating. And I am now going to turn it over to to Corey. She's going to introduce our speaker.
Thank you so much, Megan. I loved learning about the Lillian Timber Farms and what great work, and want to continue to follow the work they're doing and help them get the word out through our networks. And again, it's always good to hear from Global Gardens. They do some amazing work there with children. So some really great programs going on across the state. So thank you all for sharing. Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Shelley Mitchell. She spent 9 years teaching high school science in Stillwater, Oklahoma. For the past 12 years, she has served as the state coordinator for the Junior Master Gardener program. In addition to leading field trips and classroom activities with students, she also leads conferences and workshops on starting school gardens for professionals and volunteers. During the summer, Shelley coordinates residential and day camps for teenagers and elementary students interested in plants. I think today we're going to get in some cool basics and more. So Dr. Shelley Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, coming to you live from Ag Hall, from OSU's campus in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I'm the youth specialist in the college, in the Department of Horticulture in the College of Ag. And so I've been spending 12 years basically focusing on gardening and plant-based education for youth. And I've been to Global Gardens and it's awesome. So I will put a plug in for that program. All right, so today we're going to talk about getting around the obstacles that I hear people say when they're like, I can't do a garden because I don't have 10 acres and a tractor. I don't have gobs and gobs of time. I can't afford all the cutesy little garden implements, and I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So we're going to go through those obstacles, and I'm going to assume that everybody is starting at square one. We're going to try in a couple of weeks to do a different gardening segment for people that have a little bit more experience, who want a little bit more in depth on any of these topics. But for today, we're just going to do the basics. Okay, so one thing you have to do, this is the thing that most people get hung up on. They don't know where to start because they don't know what their goal is. So you have to decide, is your goal to raise produce and to save money on your food bill? Is it to raise produce so you're really eating locally and you're saving money and you're helping the environment by not buying things that require so much fossil fuel to get to you and to package? I think the average piece of food in your refrigerator traveled 1,500 miles to get there. So if we can reduce that mileage, that'll help. Are you doing it as a therapy source? I mean, a lot of people garden to feel better. There's actually scientific studies on the microorganisms in soil and how they actually act as a natural antidepressant. And if you have any like arthritis problems or anything like that, the active gardening helps with that pain. It helps, like, basically it's like a little therapy. Are you wanting to grow flowers for your garden or to cut and give to someone, or do you just want a place to relax? So depending on the size of the space you have and how comfortable you feel growing different things, that'll help you decide what you want to do. But if you have a goal, it'll go a lot faster in getting it ready and getting it going. Who's in charge of the slides? Okay, so like I said, there's the common obstacles that people always mention is they don't have any space. They think you need like 10 acres and a tractor, or they think you need at least a raised garden bed, or they think, you need actual ground in the ground. They don't think about above ground. They don't think about small scale. They don't think about using what they already have. Money. Yeah, you can go online and get the fancy name brand gloves and trowels and stuff. You can go to Lowe's or Walmart and get stuff like that. Or you can just use stuff from around the house. I mean, if you really want to get frugal, you can take gallon milk jugs and cut them so that they actually form a little trowel. So you can use your imagination. You don't have to spend a lot of money. No experience. That's what people in extension are for. That's what master gardeners are for. That's what friends that have done this before are for. So don't feel like you have to go it alone. We've got lots of people out there who can help. And no time. People think you have to dedicate like hours a day or hours a week into this. And really, you don't. It depends on what scale you're doing it at. If you don't have that much time, then go smaller scale. So those are just some of the obstacles I hear about all the time. And so we're going to address those. Next. Okay, so here's one of the things that is really cool about space for the garden. All you need really, if you have a pallet or something, you're talking 4 inches of space. Do you have 4 inches of space? All right, that's not much. So there are people who take pallets and they line them with landscape fabric and they fill them with soil, not dirt. There's a difference. All right. And then they make little slits in the landscape fabric and push the plants through or plant seeds. Now, if you're going to use pallets, there's heat treated and then there's chemically treated. So if you're going to use pallets to grow food, you need to find pallets that have a little HT on them, usually burned into the side. If it doesn't have an HT, then it might have chemicals applied. So just a word to the wise there. If you have a wall, you can take guttering and hang the guttering up, and then you've got a little trough for all your plants to grow in. This works really well with herbs. Right now, you'd want to put holes in the bottom of it every so often so it could drain. The number one thing that kills plants in or out is either too much water or too little water. That is the main thing about plants. So you've got to have it drain well. If you're using something like it's really sandy to plant in, that's going to drain really fast. So you're going to need to water more. If you have something that's small and it's outside, it's going to heat up throughout the container faster. So you're going to need to water it more because it's going to dry out faster. So the smaller the container, the more you need to keep on top of the watering. And the best way to tell is to put your finger into the soil, because the top part might look dry, but it might be really wet underneath. So if you put your finger in and anything sticks to it, when you pull your finger out, it's good. If nothing sticks to it, then it's time to water. All right. Another picture. This is a vertical garden from the Chicago Botanic Garden Enabling Garden. And so this is for people who can't bend over. You can actually garden on the wall. So somebody hung up basically a pallet with soil in it and landscape fabric and mesh, and you can actually garden standing up. So that's another thing to think about if you have pain or you have problems bending over or squatting down. Okay, another thing you can do is you can't go on the wall. If you have actually more space than a wall or the side of a building, you can use your imagination, all right? If you have an old wheelbarrow that doesn't hold anything because it's got holes in the bottom, excellent drainage. Use it to plant like tomatoes or flowers or anything you want to grow. The benefit of having it in a wheelbarrow is if you have tomatoes planted and a hailstorm is coming, you can just wheel it under shelter. And if you've got something that you're hardening off and you got to get it into sun a little bit more each day, there you go. You can move it in, move it out, move it to the shade, move it to the sun. So that's really convenient. You can stack clay pots. Some people do this for an artistic effect. That's basically a rebar going through the holes in the bottom of stacked pots. And people do that to grow strawberries and herbs. The only thing you don't want to grow in small containers is like carrots, anything that's going to be really deep. All right. Also 5-gallon buckets. They're everywhere. All right. If you're going to use them, make sure that you know what was in them before. If you get them from a food service, you know that was food grade stuff in there. If you get it from a construction site, who knows what was in there. So just be careful where you get your buckets. You can buy them clean and new at like Atwoods or Lowe's, but that's another solution. And the good thing is it's about a square foot on the top of the 5-gallon bucket. So when you are doing square foot gardening or you're spacing your plants properly, that's a square foot right there. So that's really easy. So like in a square foot, you can grow 16 radishes or you can grow 1 tomato. So depending on what you're growing, that might be plenty. All right, next. Okay, like I said, you don't have any money? No biggie. We have a shoe bag that goes over the door that's been repurposed as a planter. They just poked a hole in the bottom of each one of those. So, I mean, that's pretty convenient and also space saving. The soccer ball with flowers is actually a picture I took at Global Gardens at Eugene Fields Elementary School when I visited in 2008. I just thought it was really ingenious. You got a volleyball or a soccer ball that's flat. And so you just cut it open and use it as a planter. I thought that was pretty cool. Some kid did that and that's pretty neat. For little pots for seedlings, you don't need to go get the little plastic pots. You can take the newspapers that you are going to recycle anyway. You roll them around a soup can, push the bottoms in, fill it with soil, stick a whole bunch of those in a tray. You water it, you grow your seeds, and then you just take the whole newspaper with the plant and you just stick it in the ground or whatever you're growing in. So, I mean, the whole thing goes in there. So it's biodegradable, free, right? The other picture is somebody's Crocs. So I guess if they got the wrong size or they're tired of wearing them, there's drainage built in, all right? So basically use what you have around the house. If it's broken, you know, I've seen people actually grow things in vacuum cleaners, all right? If it can hold soil, you can plant in it. So use your imagination, especially with kids. Let them go wild, let them get creative. An old pair of shoes, they love stuff like that. So you don't have to get the fancy, you know, expensive containers and stuff. You can use what's around the house. All right, another thing you can use, there's some 2-liter bottles that have been strung up and they are hanging from either fishing wire or some kind of wire, and they've actually made little planters out of those. I've also seen them laid sideways and have a big cutout and planted in it with holes in the bottom, and then they've stacked them so that there's like 6 or 8 2-liter bottles laying on their sides forming a vertical planter. So I mean, again, if it holds soil, there you go. We've got 10 cans. You can paint them and make them look, you know, really cool. So you can make treasure out of trash. Another thing, you don't have to go out and buy expensive seeds, okay? If you're gonna grow beans, go buy a bag of beans at Walmart and you can plant like 1 bag of kidney beans will give you a whole lot of kidney bean plants, all right? So use your imagination. Also, the Tulsa City County Library has a seed library. You go check out seeds. If they're a flop and you don't get any more seeds because you didn't get to, plant didn't grow very well, no biggie. They're not gonna like give you a fine for, you know, you lost 6 seeds or anything. But you can check out different varieties. They got heirloom varieties. They got a lot of different flowers and they've got food. And so if you are successful and you get seeds from the plant, then you can put them in an envelope and take them back so that other people can enjoy them. But that's a free resource. And you already, if you're listening to this, you're probably in the Tulsa City County Library System area. So don't forget to use that. Okay, no experience. This is what OSU is for, all right? Any land-grant university. Langston, Muskogee Creek has a new land-grant university, OSU. Those are your 3 land-grant universities. And so there's 3 missions of a land-grant university. One is to do research, one is to do teaching, and then one is to take all that information out to the people in the form of extension. So your tax dollars are paying for this program. So you might as well use it. It's totally free. If you go to the extension website, and this is the one for Oklahoma State, because that's where I am, you go to, there's a sheet, there's a list of fact sheets. We're talking everything from canning tomatoes to castrating pigs to reading a brand on a cow to, you know, installing a water garden. I mean, everything. If it has to do with ag or family and consumer sciences, those are the 2 branches that have extension. So you can go and type in a topic, or you can just click on like horticulture, or fisheries. So you've got an extension office in every single county in Oklahoma. So if you don't know where yours is, you can look on the extension website, and it'll tell you exactly where it is and who is part of it. Or if you know where it is, you can just walk in. And some of these might be printed out, but online is the most recent updated version of every fact sheet. And once they get to be about 10 years old, we have to update them or throw them away. So everything in there is within probably mostly in the last 5 years. All right. And your master gardeners are through the extension service. If they go through the master gardener program, they don't have to pay to go through the program, but they have to do 40 hours of service every year. So if you can snag a master gardener, they might get credit for spending an hour with you or to come and talk to your neighborhood group. So those are some good places to get fact sheets. And the thing about extension is it's all science-based. So there's no wives' tales, there's no folk remedies. It's all based on science. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, the basics. So this is if you've never done any gardening whatsoever. If you're gonna grow a fruiting plant, which is anything that makes like a tomato or a squash or a cucumber, all right, it needs 6 to 8 hours of full sun, all right? So if you're outside, you wanna know where you can put a garden, just look out your window every few hours. What parts of the yard, what parts of the patio are getting sun, and does the shade move? Because if it's in the shade at all, that's part sun, part shade. If you want something that's fruiting, it has to be 6 to 8 hours of full sun. If you want to grow something like lettuce or herbs, it doesn't have to have as much direct sun. But if you're going to be fruiting plants, they need like full on sun. If you're going to plant outside, use loose soil. Oklahoma clay is not very conducive to gardens. So you can either start incorporating compost and straw and all kinds of stuff into your clay to make it loosen up a little. It's still going to take a long time. So what we do most of the time is we build a raised bed and put potting soil or topsoil in it. So you can work with the clay, but it's not going to be an easy fix. If it's inside, you want to use potting soil. You don't want to take soil from the outside and bring it in because it's got little bugs, it's got, germs, all right? So potting soil is not actually soil. It's usually chopped up pieces of mulch. It's got vermiculite, it's got perlite, and those help drainage and support a plant's roots. And if you're going to start with seeds, it's better to start them inside because if they're outside, not only can they take a pounding, but there's little fungus diseases that can dampen them off and kill them. Plus, potting soil is a lot lighter. So if you're working inside, you want that. You don't want to put potting soil outside unless it's in a protected area because it will blow. Water requirements, like I said, the number one thing that kills a plant is either too much water or too little water. But know what you're growing, and usually it'll say on the package or the tag how much water it needs. If it's a rose plant, it's going to need more water than a cactus, all right? So some things like a lot of water, some things don't. Some things want to be dry all the way before you water, and some things like to be kept moist. So make sure you know whatever you're growing, you know its water needs. And drainage has to do with the water. You don't want things sitting. You don't want things sitting in water. Also, when you water a plant, if you're inside, make sure it's like room temperature water. And if it's in a pot, water it all the way through till it drains. Then water it all the way through till it drains again. You get fertilizer buildup, and that will hurt your plants. If you see the ends of your leaves getting little brown tips inside on your houseplants, that's because there's too much salt. It can come from tap water. It can also come from fertilizer buildup. So you want to make sure you're like rinsing through your plant as much as you can. If you're inside, the south windows get the most sun. So east and west windows get the next amount of sun, and then northern windows don't get. If you think about it, the sun's in the southern half of the sky because we're in the northern hemisphere. So you'll always be exposed to the sun if you're on the south side. If you're going to have a garden that has multiple rows, make sure the short stuff is on the south side. And make sure the taller stuff is towards the north. Because if the short stuff is on the north side, let's say you've got some corn growing, that's going to shade out anything north of it. So make sure that you orient your gardens and stuff so that the short stuff gets the most sun on the south side. Some basics. When you plant a seed, if you don't know how deep to plant it, a good rule of thumb is twice as deep as it is wide. So you can tell by the little thing I have pictured there, lettuce seeds are barely under the ground. By the time you get to beans, it's further. You don't want it too shallow because it'll dry out or blow away. If it's too deep, all right, seeds are like chicken eggs. They have a little bit of yolk to get them going until they hatch and can start eating. Well, beans have just enough energy to put out some roots and some leaves. But if the leaves run out of energy before they get to the surface, then it'll never break the surface. So you want to make sure it's deep enough so that it's not too deep to where it never get a chance to break through the surface. All right, next. Okay, so if it's your first time to grow, you don't want to start off with anything that's too difficult or exotic. Start with something that other people around you are growing because they'll have expertise. And start with something like if you want something really fast, plant radishes. 3 or 4 weeks after you plant them, you harvest them. So that's a good confidence builder. Plus you can do 16 in a square foot. All right. Carrots, you can do 16 in a square foot. Don't try to grow carrots in clay or they'll be like this big and that long. All right. They really need loose soil. Tomatoes, I would start with cherry tomatoes because you get so many on a plant that if 1 or 2 of them aren't good, no big loss. You still have lots and lots. Plus, if you're out gardening, you can just pop one off and eat it for a little snack right there in the middle of the garden. Other things that are easy to grow, mint and other herbs. If you plant mint, it will take over the garden, so just make sure it's contained. Leaf lettuce, you can harvest those. They just keep growing. You keep harvesting, you know, plant a few more seeds every time you harvest some. You got a nice selection. Some of the packets even come with the selection in them to begin with, so that's kind of cool. All right, and no time. This kind of goes with the carrots and the, well, not the carrots, the radishes and stuff. You can grow your leftovers, all right? So if you don't have any time, the closest thing to fix it and forget it is to, like, if you're using celery, chop the bottom off, stick it in a thing of water. Every few days, change out the water so it doesn't get gross, and you'll start growing more celery, all right? With green onions, my husband does this. He eats the top of the green onion, then he just sticks it in water and grows another top of green onion. So that's cheap and it's fast. You can just ignore it, put it on your windowsill, forget about it. All right, sprouts are pretty fast. You don't have to have a fancy sprouter. What I do with kids is I get some mung bean seeds and some alfalfa seeds, put them in the base of a mason jar, put water on it, swish it around, dump the water. I usually have it covered with cheesecloth so it'll drain. Then you, after a few days of rinsing it every day, you'll start getting sprouts. So that doesn't really take anything special. You don't need a certain sprouter thingy. So that's fast. That's free. I mean, I don't know how much better it gets. All right, next. Okay, so the big thing here is don't try to start off with a huge garden. All right, if you have no confidence, start with a Dixie cup on a windowsill with 1 little seed, all right? Because it's better to start small and get more confident and take care of more things than to try to just start at the top and then get frustrated because it's too much to take care of, all right? So just start with something you think you'll like. I mean, don't be growing eggplant if you don't like eggplants, all right? So grow it something you like, something that might be a little faster, all right? And then something you can share if you want to. Use what you have already. So don't be putting the cart before the horse, all right? Start off small, start off with something that you like and you think you're gonna find enjoyment in. So those are just like the basics of gardening. This is where you like start. So if you have questions, because you're a more advanced gardener, then you'll be able to submit questions when you register for the next one of these talks, which will be on the 18th. So I'll be taking questions and then I'll know what topics you want to have covered, because this is just really basic.
Yes, Shelley, thank you so much. We'll have a slide about that event here in just a moment. But we are taking questions right this moment. And if you have any questions, please submit them to Teresa and we will begin asking questions. Teresa, do we have any questions so far?
Yes, we do. Our first question is, are there other seed libraries across the state?
That I'm not sure of. I only know of the Tulsa one because I happened to be at, there was some green event in downtown Tulsa a few years ago, and this Tulsa Public Library was there, and I thought that was really cool. So I don't know of any others, but it'd be easy enough to start.
The next one is entertaining. What do you know about using ice cream cones for seedlings?
Hey, if you do that, take a picture and send it to me, because I love creative ideas like that. That'd be totally cool. It'd be like using newspaper. You can, assuming you're not going to eat the ice cream, which is a travesty. If you have extra ice cream cones, fill them with soil. You know, I would start with potting soil just because it's pretty much sterile. Get some seeds going and then plant it in the ground. But seriously, if you do that, I want pictures, because that's totally unique. I've never heard of that suggestion before.
Those are the questions we have for right now.
That's it?
Hang on. We've got more. Here we go. What are your tips for squirrel proofing your garden?
Good luck with that. Not much. I mean, they say that they don't like peppers, so like they put cayenne peppers in bird seed because the birds don't mind it, but the squirrels don't like it. I mean, there's fact sheets out there on control of things like rabbits and squirrels, but everyone, whether it's deer, rodents, there's different methods that people have tried. There's different wives' tales and folklore, and basically just look at the fact sheet for control of herbivores in your garden, and good luck. I mean, they have fox urine pellets you can hang on the fence to supposedly keep the deer out. We've had 8-foot fences at the OSU Botanic Garden, and the deer have jumped in, and then they can't jump out, so they eat the whole thing, or they run through it and ruin it. So, I mean, there's some people that are seriously trying to keep the deer out that put 3 or 4 fences spaced pretty close together. I mean, yeah, if you come up with some tried and true method, be sure to tell your local extension agent so they can write a fact sheet, because that's one of the biggest problems. I mean, even if you harvest your tomatoes when they very, very first turning yellow, once they barely start showing any color, you can take them inside and ripen them on the windowsill, because the more ripe they get to you, the better they look to wildlife. However, I have seen a squirrel carrying off a solid green tomato. So you can try to beat them, but they think it's for them.
Do you have any advice on the best food plants for shady areas?
Shady areas, if it's full shade, that's not going to be easy. If it's part shade, you can usually get herbs to grow in that. If I had only shady areas, I think I'd stick to buckets outside on the south side of my house, or I would use a south window. If you're totally like in the middle of an apartment complex with no sun, then you could get some grow lights. With the grow lights, we tried that inside, and you can actually get tomatoes and stuff, and you can actually get some big bell peppers. You just have to make sure you get the right, we used full spectrum 5000K. You can get them at Walmart for like $20, and we've had some good luck with that. However, if you are doing it inside, don't think you're going to get away from the bugs, because we have little sticky traps for fungus gnats, and they are full in our little garden inside. So you can try inside gardening if you have too much shade. If it's only part shade and you have some sun, either plant herbs or plant in 5-gallon buckets that you can move around to hit the sun.
I wanted to interject one thing. We do have the City of Tulsa's mulch site. If any of you are familiar with it, that's fantastic, but some of you may not. It's located at 2100 North 145th East Avenue, and they offer free mulch to everyone, and it's open 7 days a week from 7:30 to 5:30. So 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if you are in need of some mulch to help with your gardening needs, this is a place to get free mulch. So again, that goes to your, money concerns. So,
okay, well, there's a caveat to that. If there's any black walnut shavings in that mulch, it will kill your plants, because black walnut trees excrete juglone, which doesn't let anything else go around the black walnut trees. Pecans do a little bit, but not too much. But if there's black walnut in that mulch, you don't want to use it. So if you can get the mulch people to put like everything but black walnut in a pile and separate out black walnut, that's what we have them do for horses. You can't bet a horse on black walnut. So black walnut's just not a good thing. So if you can make sure it doesn't have that in there, then I would definitely use it. But otherwise, no.
If you need it, but you could use it for like pathway. If you've done like a container or a raised bed, you can use it for a pathway. So yes, I'm not sure if they are monitoring that, because I know people take storm debris there. So that's probably not best for your actual garden then, but it could be used for pathways and other things that aren't, you're not growing in. I think that's it. Okay, Teresa, it looks like we have a ton more questions that have come in. Go ahead.
We do. This is extraordinarily popular. What are the best resources for planning a small beginner outdoor garden?
Okay, there's a fact sheet on growing gardens in Oklahoma, one for spring, one for fall. So I would look at that to see what you'd want to grow, because you can't plant, like if you plant tomatoes right after the last frost, they're not going to make it. So some things you plant as transplants later. So if you look at those fact sheets, Oklahoma gardens, starting them, you'll learn what grows well here. Like you can't grow pineapples here, all right, unless they're in a greenhouse, all right. Again, used raised beds. If you make a raised bed, don't make it more than 4 feet across, because you want to be able to reach all the way to the middle from both sides. If it's too far across, then people will walk in it, which defeats the whole purpose. All right, so keep it small. If I was going to do a raised bed, I would do like 4 by 8 and just plant like some tomatoes on the north end, because they get tall. Plant some lettuce, stuff like that. Depends on what you want to grow, but you can get a good idea of what to grow from those fact sheets.
We have a good question. Why do we get ants in my food garden?
Well, they eat, we have trouble with ants on all kinds of plants, but they eat little bits of food. So, if there's a little bit of there's leaf cutter ants that don't live here, but they eat leaves, they eat little pieces of fruits and vegetables. So there's really not much you can do. I have heard of people, they'll make like a collar and they'll cover it with like Vaseline so the ants will get trapped, and they'll put it around the base of their plant so the ants can't climb up it. You can try that, but one thing about ants, you can use diatomaceous earth for soft-bodied insects. It'll help break up their little exoskeletons and kill them. But I would use that first if I was going to try to get rid of ants, because it won't hurt you.
And you mean the food grade version, correct?
You don't even have to use the food grade version. Diatomaceous earth is, I wouldn't sprinkle it on my tomatoes. I'd sprinkle it on the ground where the ants are. Just sprinkle it right around the base of your plants, and that ought to kill them.
We have 2 really good Oklahoma questions. We have recommendations for soil do you have recommendations for soil to augment outdoor soil that may be clay-based?
Well, what I mostly suggest is we do this in the fall. After we rake our leaves, we put them in a big pile, and we dig up a big section of what we want to garden, and we just put them in there, and we put in all kinds of compost, and then we mix the soil and the compost to help break up the clay, and also it adds nutrients plus your recycling. Whatever you do not add sand, because clay and sand makes concrete. All right, so do not do that. You can add, you can bring in topsoil, but be careful because some of that topsoil has been scraped off construction sites, so you don't know what's in there. You can add bags of potting soil, but you'd want to incorporate it really quickly because it'll blow away because it's really lightweight. So the best thing really is just to kind of make your own as you go.
Does full sun mean Oklahoma summer sun? This person has been told that Oklahoma summer afternoon sun can be too brutal for even full sun plants.
Mainly for the sun, it's the brightness. If you have plants that are right up against the south side of your house or on the west side where you get the most sun, you're going to need to water more often. If your plants are getting burned from the sun, they actually have shade cloth. So you can make like a little, they actually have like shade cloths you put up for their tomatoes. You know, it's just like a little, it's just like a little cube or a hoop of shade cloth to keep it from being too much. But generally, unless it's frying, and you can tell that it is because it's drying out and it's burning, it's okay. But things that are up against the building are going to reflect more heat. So especially if it's on the west side. So just make sure you're watering it. And if it needs it, put a shade cloth, and then you can move it or not move it depending on how hot the sun is. It can't be too hot. We're growing crops all over the state. So, I think it's just a brightness thing, but yeah, just add more water and more shade cloth. So that's the artificial shade. You ought to be able to order that through any kind of a greenhouse website, or they might have it in some of the nurseries around your city. They might have some shade cloth, or they'll know where to get some. So yeah.
I have two more here. I'm sure they'll keep, oh no, there are a lot more than that.
That's why we're going to have another one on February 18th.
What do you suggest for preparing your beds to minimize weed growth?
Till, and till. And then if you're going to grow on something like Bermuda grass, which is like the #1 weed that gets in gardens and drives you crazy, it's probably a little late for this season, but you can solarize it. So at the end of the season, what you do is you take a big thing of plastic and you use landscape stakes to stake it down wherever you're going to grow. And that thing will just like burn up everything underneath it. So when you pull it off, you'll have like basically as sterile as it gets soil and as few weed seeds as possible. But regardless, you're still going to have weeds crawling in. So you can use a lot of mulch right around your bed and just keep at the weeds, because the problem is anything you would spray, if you want to do spray, if it's going to kill a weed, it's going to kill your plant, because basically weed killers come in two versions, those for grasses and those for pretty much everything. So you don't want to spray, you don't want to do that around your food anyway. So you just have to keep up with the weeds. And if you mulch between your plants and around your plants and keep at it, you ought to be able to be okay. But mulch really does help cut down. Plus mulch holds in the water. If you think about it, if you go pull a board off the ground that's been sitting there forever, it's usually moist under there. So mulch is really good for several things there, just not black walnut.
These questions are great. We have time for just probably two more. If we've missed your question, please make sure you private message Teresa. And then if we have time to answer it today, we will. If not, Shelley's going to answer it and it'll go out with the email with the recording from today's event tomorrow. So, and then we'll talk about the event in 2 weeks. So go ahead, Teresa. Two more questions.
I have one right here. Being from the West Coast, this is something interesting because blackberries there are quite invasive, but how successful are blackberry cuttings in Oklahoma?
I don't know about cuttings per se. The ones you get like at a nursery are already like balled and burlapped and ready to go. You can do it. You can layer blackberries. We do have a blackberry fact sheet, but blackberries do very well in Oklahoma, as you can ask anybody who's got cattle on pasture that has to spray for those things. But I try to get them to not spray it because I like to go in and get the blackberries. But yeah, we have a blackberry fact sheet. So I would refer to that, and surely you can get some cuttings to grow. I know for sure seeds and layering work, so go to that fact sheet.
Last question we have, thoughts on poison plants like datura, I may be mispronouncing that, as barrier for food gardens?
Oh yeah, datura or like, well, I had it in my mind, I don't know. But the only time I don't want to use, because a lot of people, those are really pretty plants. And a lot of times people want to use it in the garden. The only time I don't suggest that if there's kids around, because kids will put anything in their mouth. And not every part of a poisonous plant is poisonous. So if it was something that you grew that only the flowers were, you could snip them off. Sometimes it's poisonous, but it's not necessarily toxic to different things. So if you planted some poisonous plants around a plant and the squirrels ate it and it wasn't poisonous to squirrels, wouldn't do anything. But if you're just planting it for looks, then I say go ahead. It's not usually something that crawls through the soil and gets in your carrots or anything. Just, I'm more worried about the kids than anything else and your companion animals. So if you have poisonous plants and you have dogs, I wouldn't make that a combination.
Okay, so we are at time for questions. Again, please keep sending your questions to Teresa. Corey, we're going to turn it back over to you.
Great. Oh, I love all the questions. And another one that someone posts is what food grows well in shaded areas. And maybe Shelley, maybe you can share with us some answers to some of these other questions that didn't get answered, and we can share those out or join your webinar, obviously. So anyway, thank you so much. This is clearly on everyone's mind about how to have an effective garden. And so given that, one of the things that we want to do, we're doing every month, is we have a challenge. And so our challenge for this month is to grow a plant from a seed or a cutting. And I will say that I'm going to try the green onion trick. That is a great idea. I can't wait to try it because we go through a lot of green onions. So I'm going to try that one. But anyway, thank you so much. This was so informative, and I could tell everyone was really getting something out of it. So thank you so much, Dr. Shelley Mitchell. So fantastic. So we have one last poll, and Megan's going to launch that now. So if you will, please take a moment to answer that while we're just kind of going through some final notes here. We will be sending out an email tomorrow to all of you. It will contain the recording as well as links and resources that were discussed today. Lots of great information. And I love it when you, as a participant coming in, share what you know in the chat, because that's how we all learn. So thank you all for sharing such great ideas and great questions. I'm going to explore the statewide seed library. It seems like we need to have more of them. So anyway, again, thank you for answering those, and let us know about our next challenge for February is a challenge to grow a plant. And Shelley's given you some great ideas, but we'll have in our Facebook group, you can also get some ideas there, and we'll have that out there. I think Teresa will post that again, our Facebook chat action group link in there. So another great way to track your journey and share and ask questions. Another great way to kind of get together in this virtual world. So we'll have that coming up, but also, as Dr. Shelley Mitchell mentioned, we'll have a follow-up event. It's a gardening webinar, and it'll be held Thursday, February 18th from 12 to 1, and that's 2 weeks from today. So space is limited, so sign up today. The event is for those who want a deeper dive into gardening, and Teresa, she's going to add that link in there for us now in the chat. Registration will include that you ask a question, and those questions will be addressed during the webinar. So thank you again for offering to do this, Shelley. We really appreciate that, and I think we'll just continue to have a great conversation around this. This is definitely one of the #1 items that you've shared in the past that you're interested in, which is how to grow a veggie garden. So looking forward to more information on that. Thank you again to our sponsors, Williams, Public Service Company of Oklahoma, American Waste Control, Covanta, the Met, One Oak, Save Our Streams, Spirit Air System, TCC, Center for Creativity, and PSO Win Choice. We are so appreciative of your support to help keep this program going. We also couldn't do it without you who joined us today. Thank you so much. We hope you're, again, staying safe and healthy. We look forward to seeing you again. Lots of things going on this month, but our next B2B is coming up on the 25th. And then we hope to see you again on Thursday, March 4th for our next First Thursday. Join us in the chat room on Facebook. Visit our website. We want to hear from you and we want to help you. So goodbye. Thank you again. And until next time, take care. Stick around if you want to visit a little bit. We'll unmic ourselves and say hello. But thank you again. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.